Hello, everyone. Welcome to Code Red by Women for Women. I'm your host, Sophia Allen Hendricks. The topic of a woman's menstrual flow and the challenges experienced is still somewhat taboo. Furthermore, the issue of safe menstrual products is not often discussed. Here on Code Red by Women for Women, we help shed light on this subject. We talk with women on the front line of the Justice for My Jewel campaign, advocates and specialists in the areas of women's wealth health. We sometimes also talk with women who've been helped along the way. Today, my treat and special guest is Nicole Brantley. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome to have you. I have heard great things about you, so I'm always stoked for a special guest. And truth be told, I always say my guests are special, but it is a special treat to have you on. It really is. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Nicole, for everybody watching, is affectionately known as the womb therapist. She is a womb care practitioner, educator, detox specialist, therapist, and vaginal steam practitioner. She's also the founder of a company called Fresh. And Fresh is an acronym. So, my first question for Nicole, and again, thank you for joining us, is I'd like for you to break down for those watching what is it that you do and what is Fresh? What is Fresh all about?
All right. So I am, like you said, a womb care practitioner and educator, detox specialist, therapist, and I help women take the option of hysterectomy and other surgeries off of the table to truly get to the root of their healing. So I work with a lot of women who have female reproductive issues such as fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, and those who have trouble conceiving and so much more. The name of my company is Fresh, which stands for Feminine Restoration, Education, and Solutions for Women's Health.
Wow. Now you mentioned that you help women take the option of hysterectomies off the table. And I want to pause there because oftentimes, if you tune into all of our shows or one of our shows, you will hear women talk about endometriosis and some of these other things that you just mentioned. But one of the things we sometimes hear about is the fact that some of these women have had to have hysterectomies, or for ambassadors of Jewel, they've met women who've had to have hysterectomy. And it appears to be one of the common option that is presented to women of varying age
Mhm.
groups who have menstrual challenges. Has that been your experience?
That's absolutely my experience. So it's no wonder that that number of 600,000 annually
Wow.
doesn't ring true because we come into contact with so many women who that was the solution for. And I do not knock allopathic medicine, but if you look up the things that they call dis-ease, they always say they don't know the cure or they don't know the origin. So when you don't know the origin of a thing, you really don't understand how to fix a thing. And so they practice medicine, they practice surgery. And if
Mm-hmm.
we take the womb out, we stop it from bleeding if that was its case. If we take the womb out, the fibroids can't come back because they only grow in that reproductive organ. And so that's their way of taking care of the problem. But the reason why I say I help women take the option of hysterectomy off of the table is because surgery does not address root issues. So your body is going to, you'll lose that organ, your body will compensate for it, but your next genetic weakness, that's where that acid that's caused whatever you were experiencing is now going to go to the next weakest place in your body and start to wreak havoc there. So I like to address issues at the root so that we don't have to deal with something else because the
Amazing.
surgery doesn't address it, really and truly.
Understood. Now, in terms of helping women find these root causes, and before I go into that question, it's important for folks to sort of know your background. You're
Mm-hmm.
not a medical practitioner per se, not a
Thank God.
traditional medical practitioner, right? So when we talk about finding the root cause, how do you help women figure out what the root cause of their issues are?
Okay, I will tell you this 99.9% of man's problems are found in his or her lymphatic system. And
Mm,
that is our sewer system that takes out the trash. So, what causes that system to not function optimally is when kidney filtration is poor. So, a lot of Americans, We have weak kidneys because of our standard American diet. We eat things like animal products in the form of meats, dairy, eggs, grains, starches, all of these things that over time shut down the kidneys. So when the kidneys start to not function optimally, which they're responsible for getting rid of uric acid through the urine, right? So the less they begin to function, the more that acid is backing up all the way until it gets into your head cavity. And then we're seeing things like allergies and sinus problems and dizziness and ringing in your ear and memory loss, graying, thinning, balding, all of these things that show us evidence that there's a lot of acid in our head cavity. So the root issue when I address anybody's issue is I'm always going to address the kidneys. I'm always going to address the adrenal glands, which are the brains of the kidneys, and I'm always going to address the lymphatic system and the colon. Okay, there's other things that we can talk about, but for time's sake, those at minimum, those are the four things that you need to address to get results and to start addressing root symptoms so that symptomology disappears and you're actually getting that person's body to do what it's designed to do, which is heal itself, but you have to give it right conditions.
Got it. Got it. Now, I'd love to hear in terms of how you sort of do that in terms of treatment methods. But before I go there, how
Mm-hmm.
did you get down this path? Because typically, again, for the purposes of those listening, you're passionate. I can tell,
Oh,
we've
yes.
talked off camera, you're passionate about this subject. And from all the things that I've heard about your work, that passion comes through. How did you get down into this area of work that you're doing currently?
Let's condense this the best I can. I was 3 months pregnant with my son. I lost my job as a therapist. I was the last one into this particular organization, first one out. And I was devastated. And I'm like, what am I going to do? But in that time, I couldn't use anything commercially to wash my vagina. Everything broke me out or made me irritated or created something. And so I had finally found this lady who made this soap maybe a year and a half prior. And I sent her my money like I always did. I went to her website, purchased my soap, 6 bars. She sent my money back with an email like, I'm not making the soap anymore. Like, lady,
Oh,
what are you
wow.
saying? So Spirit goes, that's because you're going to make it. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not. I'm a therapist. I don't know anything about the vagina in that way. And I'm staying in my lane. But the nudging was so strong. So because I had the time, I was like, okay, I am going to make this great use of time and make this bar of soap for myself. So in my research, in my calling to chemists and soap makers and just all of the research that I did, I kept bumping into articles, different things that stood out to me about womb health, women's vaginas, and at 33, I was like, some of this stuff I don't know. I wonder how many other women don't know these things. And so that kind of piqued my interest. And so I was saying, oh my God, my negative chatter was so loud. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't have enough information. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So Spirit said, create a group, share the things that you're learning, ask out the questions to the things that you didn't know, and start there. So I was like, okay, I'm comfortable with that. I can start there. And so I was like, well, what am I going to call it? And my best friend goes, go back to your journal from 2011 and go and see that name that you wrote down. And I'm like, how did you even remember that? And she goes, because we were supposed to do something together. And the way that you were passionate about that name you came up with, I didn't want to touch it. She's like, just go back to your journal from 2011. So I'm searching through my journals and I'm like, oh, I wrote that. Oh, that's good. I should still execute on that. And then I came to the page and literally, Sophia, a tear dropped because there it was, fresh. Feminine
Wow.
restoration, education, and solutions for women's health. So I created this Facebook group. I started to add my friends. They started to add their friends. Within a couple of weeks, we had over 800 people in there. I was asking
Amazing.
out questions, sharing articles. And the thing that got me the confidence is within a short amount of time, I kept getting emails. I kept getting text messages, inboxes. Nicole, thank you for this safe space for us to let our guard down and share freely. Thank you for helping me understand that I should listen to my body and not listen to my doctors who's telling me this pain is in my head. You helped me determine that I have endometriosis. So as I begin to funnel out that information and got confident, I ordered a ton of books. I'm a Virgo, so I have to know what I'm talking about before I share it out. So I ordered all of these books. I'm studying, I'm highlighting, I'm reading. And that's really what set me up on the journey. And to be honest with you, the doors kept opening. And so shortly thereafter, I got certified in vaginal steaming because I was learning of all of the womb issues that they were having. And I
Wow.
knew that was a great tool. That I met a lady who was sewing pads into underwear, and I was like, there are no pads on the market that I would offer to my clients. And I was like, but lady, I have to be in a skirt, otherwise I'm getting undressed in a stall. Like I can't do that because I was working at a corporate job at the time. And so I was like, can we make these with snaps? Fast forward, I ended up getting a manufacturer who was, manufacturing thousands of these cloth pads for me. That was in production for a couple of years. The next thing I know, I'm getting certified as a fertility massage specialist because a lot of my V-steam clients were suffering with fertility issues and the ability to conceive. Fast forward from that detox, the doors just kept opening. So once I got to detox specialist, I kind of paused there because listen, I have a master's degree and it didn't give me this much information or education. Once I understood the chemistry of the body, I was able to help women heal sooner, quicker, faster. And it totally changed the
Wow.
game in my business.
Great story. Great
So
story.
that's how I
Thank
got
you.
here.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's been a great journey. It sounds
Absolutely.
like there was a synergy. If you believe in that sort of stuff, sounds like the universe
Mhm.
conspired and brought you to this
Conspired.
place because,
Absolutely.
part of the work was already done. It just wasn't
Mhm.
time yet. So incredible story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank
Now,
you.
earlier you also talked about some of the things that you treat women for or some of the
Mhm.
common issues, and we've talked about that on this program before. What
Mhm.
is it, what are the things that you treat women for, and what are things that you don't treat women for?
Well, I treat women for just about anything. Like I said, with that detox specialist education that I received, I begin to help women heal more than
Okay,
just female issues. So I
gotcha.
now could help them if they had diabetes, if they had high blood pressure, if they had lupus, like whatever they had going on, I now understand the chemistry of the body so I could begin to help with that. But to reel it in and make it, relevant to what we're talking about now, I help women who have fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, those who have trouble conceiving. And what I do and how I treat that I feel like it's different from most others is that I address things, mind, body, spirit, and emotions. You'll hear a lot of people say that,
Yes,
but I'm like, well, how do you do that? So for me, from the emotional perspective, it's so important because we have to understand that everything we're experiencing has an emotional root. And if we don't address it, we will halt our healing. We'll never completely, truly heal. And so when we're dealing with fibroids, nursing a hurt from a partner or a blow to the feminine ego, people are like, whoa, like, how did you know that? And I'm like, because that is the metaphysical reason that you're dealing and experiencing this. So let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Let's break
yes,
it down. Who said or did something that made you feel as though you weren't good enough? And this usually starts in childhood and you begin to show up everywhere you go. Now, as an adult, you show up this way at work, in relationships, in personal relationships. And it's like we have to address that because if we don't, you're going to continue the cycle. Just like women go and get myomectomies to remove their fibroids. That's one of the ways to remove fibroids. And they're like, it's 6 months, they're back. It's a year, they're back.
mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
never address the emotional root.
Right,
And so
right.
they're going to come back. You never address your diet and the things in your environment that are causing you to have these fibroids. The chemicals that we take in on a daily basis in our feminine or not even feminine, just our grooming hygiene project products alone filled with tons of chemicals. So if they don't change anything about those things, diet,
Mm-hmm.
emotions, what how they're addressing their emotions daily, they're going to see these things come back up for them.
Now, you
So,
mentioned diet as an important part, and most people know diet is important.
mhm.
Do you recommend folks have a vegan diet, or are there specific things that you're thinking that they should not include? So
when
there's
I'm
three things they can exclude, or is it that, a person would need to become vegan, for example?
Okay, so a large part of what I do in helping women heal is detoxification. So cleaning out that temple. We forget to do that. We clean everything else but our bodies. So detoxification is huge. But in addition to the detoxification is an herbal protocol. And with diet, they don't have to go vegan. When I'm treating them, I want at least 90 days, no meat, no dairy, no, but
Okay.
I can't make people do all of that. But it's just a way to flood the body with alkalinity. I suggest a high raw diet. So in my detox programs, you can keep your day mostly raw, and then you can have a cooked meal. at the end of the day, or lunch, whichever you choose, but no meat, no eggs, no cheese, no starches, no grains. It has to be all fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, things of that nature, things that come from the earth. So technically speaking, they are vegan for at least 90 days on a program until their body starts to heal itself. And then some people want to go further with that. And then I teach them how to live a lifestyle of detox, how to incorporate more raw food in your day daily, and then have your cooked meal, but maintain that health overall by detoxing with the seasons throughout the year. So I do make them up that raw food and really stay away from those mock meats, animal products and things of that nature so that their body can truly heal. Because when we put in things that are processed, fried, greasy, things that the body does not know, it doesn't recognize, it creates inflammation. But when we
Yes.
eat things like fruits and vegetables and things that our body does recognize, the body computes that as information, and it knows exactly what to do with that. And we need those things to fuel the brain and the body. And so that's why I'm really big on people eating live foods as much as possible, because we'll get the quickest results that way.
Great, great. And you talked about 90 days being a sort of, is 90 days the minimum for folks to see results, or is 90 days a good timeline where definitely the results have kicked in?
So we start to see results within 30 days, but 90 days is a good time frame to form habits, new routines, and people see significant results in 90
Okay.
days. But people go 6 months. It's optimal to go 1 year because we're trying to correct years worth of
Yes.
damage, and it doesn't happen overnight. So 90 days is kind of like a baseline for people to say, okay, I've jumped in, I've dived in. Can I take a 2 week break, Nicole? Can I take a month off? And I'm like, sure, but jump back on the wagon and get back in the saddle, because, we have to be consistent in order to get results.
Okay, okay, got it. Now, if we go back to sort of, the female issues, the
Hmm.
endometriosis, the PCOS, and some of these other common issues that women have, and especially connected to their menstrual cycle,
Hmm.
in some cases. When somebody comes to you for those issues, and you're treating a person, what are some of the ways in which you mentioned the detoxification is the core, or one of the core things you do? Are there any other things that you do to help women treat that? Do you sort of have them go through some sort of Q&A or something to help get to the root of the issue and to be able to treat them for some of those challenges? What does
Yes.
the protocol look like?
So it looks like filling out an intake form, starting out usually with a personal detoxification and herbal protocol consultation. So that's where we kind of dive deep. We see what you're dealing with emotionally. We talk about what you're dealing with physically. Herbs restore and regenerate what's been damaged over time. So that's really at the core of my treatment, in addition to the detoxification. So when we couple those things, we start to see results right away. But I do want to speak to this. Menstrual cycles are controlled by the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland controls your menses, and it controls ovulation. So if you have an irregular cycle, you have a weak pituitary gland. If you're not ovulating, usually you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it's associated with infertility, but it's a weak pituitary gland. So when we restore the pituitary gland, those things begin to balance out and work correctly. When you're dealing with heavy bleeding, you are dealing with lots of acidity and
Hmm.
toxicity in your reproductive area. Okay, from the diet, and then from the chemicals that we put on our body, like those tampons that we like to plug up there, and that pad that we like to wear with the tampon, because we're bleeding so heavy that we don't want to have accidents when we're double dosing ourselves and causing more
Yeah,
harm than good. So it's environmental. It's the things that we have in our product. So I like to say that what we eat, drink, breathe, and put on our skin determines our state of health. When we're
absolutely.
cramping, that's a sign that you have too many proteins in your body. If you cut the proteins and you cut the dairy, the cramps should disappear. The same thing with clotting. It's a sign of poor circulation. So that's why you have to get in there and get things moving and open up the circulatory system in order for the clots to go away. So our body's always leaving clues. It's always letting us
Yes,
know what's going on within it if we're in tune and connected and listening. But
that I do believe. Yes.
a lot of us as women are disconnected from our womb. We're disconnected from our GPS. And so we're doing so many things that are not in alignment with what we should be doing because we're connected from source. so to speak. So if the GPS is, we're disconnected from it, like where are we going? We don't know. And so that's why I teach a lot of women, get back in tune. And then the other thing, Sophia, is that it is our sacred seed of creation. We sit on this thing and we don't even know how powerful we are as women, but we also store everything there. So there's no wonder that fibroids are there and endo is there. And, all of those things are
Yes.
there because that's where that negative energy can potentially be stored if we don't intentionally release it. And then I want to say this one thing. In my studies, I learned that there was a direct correlation between dioxin
Mm-hmm.
and endometriosis.
Hmm.
A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't know it. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But let's talk about dioxin for a second. It's one of the most dangerous chemicals on this planet. And it's in our traditional commercial pads that are on the market.
Interesting.
It can cause cancer, hormonal imbalances, which disrupt the endocrine system, can create infertility for women, and it can cause impaired liver function. It's also not just in our sanitary napkins or sanitary feminine hygiene products. It can also be in our meats, our fish, our
Mm-hmm.
milk,
Mm-hmm.
our eggs, and butter, just to name a few. And so those are the things that we want to, that's why I teach people, be an avid label reader. Like you need to know what's in
Yes.
everything, but then there's those hidden, those products where they don't have to list it. So it's a catch-22, but that's why you
Yeah.
should be in tune with your body.
Amazing. So where does the pad or pads, we you touched on it, you talked about in prior situations sort of having somebody create pads, and is the intention there to create something that's natural, since you just touched on that these
Hmm.
products that are purchased on the shelf has so many toxins in it? Where
Hmm.
does pad fit into your regime or your treatment for women?
I'm glad that you asked that. I look at Jewel as a tool. Okay, so Jewel pads are a tool for me. And I say that because they can help you rule out if it's actually the chemicals from your pads that are causing you the
Hmm.
problem, or if there's a deeper issue going on there. So if you make the switch to a Jewel pad and you're still bleeding heavy, you're still experiencing cramping, you still have to change your pad every 3 hours maybe, that's a deeper issue. Sounds like you're hemorrhaging, especially if you're bleeding more than 5 days. So it helps me to rule out certain things that may be going on in the body. Now, some people will bounce back. They're like, oh my God, that was my first round and it was an amazing cycle. I'm a 7-day bleeder. I only bled for 4 days. No cramps this time, no clotting, no this. So sometimes for some people, it's just what they're flooding their bloodstream
Okay.
with for that month. They make the switch to Jewel, they get amazing results. So it's a tool for me to see if there's deeper issues going on. And I like to tell a quick story. One of my clients could not wear a traditional pad for more
Mm-hmm.
than an hour.
Hmm.
Well, when she made the switch to Jewel, she could now keep a pad on for 3 to 4 hours. That's progress because she was hemorrhaging. She had fibroids. She had all kinds of things going on. And so sometimes we get negative feedback from customers, but it's like, no, that's a win, because if you were rushing to get to work, praying that you got there without having an accident in an hour, and now you can wear a pad for 3 to 4 hours, we're going to celebrate that win. And you
Right.
have to
Right.
keep this graphene against your skin. So you need to be wearing your panty liners on every day that you're not wearing a pad for your menstrual cycle, so that it can get in there and do what it needs to do, help you with circulation, everything that it helps with. And you can see over 30, 60, 90, 120 days, a much better menstrual
Wow.
cycle.
So
So
it sounds like you, in your practice and the line of work that you do, you would have individuals wear the liners first or the pads to help you diagnose whether or not there are some deeper issues that they should be looking at. Is that the idea?
especially if they're not diagnosed. Yes. So
Okay.
sometimes people have fibroids, but they're not diagnosed, or they have PCOS, but they're not diagnosed. So if I'm using it, sometimes I do use it as a diagnostic tool. So if I
Okay.
get them on Jewel and nothing changes, then something else is up. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So
Now,
definitely
do
for
you,
sure.
after a protocol where you've helped a patient or helped, a client, do you recommend that they go to a non-traditional, off-the-shelf pad product,
Never.
so that they are? So you would recommend that they go to something that's natural, cleaner, healthier for them after they've gone through treatment.
I never recommend anything other than Jewel. I'm never going to
Okay.
recommend them go to a shelf and pull anything else, because everything on the market has hidden chemically laden, chemicals in them. But once they're with me and they start Jewel, I haven't had a person that said, okay, I don't want to use this anymore. It changed their menstrual cycle so much so that they're like, I order 4 packs ahead of time and I have a stash, with me at all times. It's helped me with clotting. It's helped me with cramping. It's shortened and lightened my cycle. So I would never recommend anything other than Jewel.
Amazing, amazing. Very, very, very informative. How do women typically find you to say, I'm having this issue, maybe I've been diagnosed, maybe I haven't been diagnosed? How do they find you and say, I need your help, I want you to help me?
A lot of my business comes from referrals and word of mouth and other people that I've helped. A lot of my business comes from me putting myself out there in front of the camera, speaking every Monday night on my live about a different topic. And it's like I get the inboxes or I get the, complimentary consultations. Like, I felt like you were speaking directly to me. Everything you said, I'm dealing with. Help. So I usually get them from referrals, but a lot of the information that I put out there, either on my Facebook or on my Instagram, attracts a lot of clients. And, and it's really important how we use those tools with certain hashtags so that if somebody's dealing with something, if they search that hashtag, I pop up a lot of the times for people. I've even had people tell me they found me on Google. So I'm like, okay, it's working.
There you
It's
go. There
working.
you go. And in addition to all the things that we do, part of the education that you do is through speaking engagements, correct?
Hmm. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. So, I mean, it's been amazingly informative. Thank you. Anything else? I always like to give my guests a last sort of word, summary statement, something to sort of share with our audience. Anything that I haven't asked you that I should or my viewers should hear before we end our conversation today?
It's the thing that I always end my lives with. And I just tell people, take care of your body so that your body can take care of you, because your health doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice. So do those necessary things. Take those necessary steps to get your body to where it needs to go. Jewel is an amazing product, but for most people, it's not the end all be all. Like, still do the detoxification, continue to change your diet, be cautious of those environmental toxins that you're using on a daily basis, and really hone in on your emotions, acknowledging them, because what you don't acknowledge, you can't heal from. But if
Absolutely.
you're willing to acknowledge that you have these things going on, if you're willing to say, I'm still hurt from this thing in childhood, I'm still not over that divorce, whatever that is for you, I always tell people, Sophia, tell yourself the truth. Because if you don't tell yourself the truth, you're not going to tell anybody else the truth, but tell yourself the truth and acknowledge what needs to be acknowledged so that you can truly find healing. So if I had to leave you guys with anything, that would be it.
Amazing, amazing. And I do personally believe that, the mind does control some other things, and that
Whew.
you can you can think yourself into some situations,
Oh, absolutely.
and that whole mind body connection is powerful. So I
It
definitely
is.
believe it is important to face the man or the woman in the mirror and have some honest conversation.
Yes. And if your guests have never read the book, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, read it.
Yes.
It talks about your thoughts and how they create our reality, how they create our world. So that is so true. I mean, we can think ourselves into sickness,
Yes.
or we can do the opposite, think ourselves
Exactly.
into wellness. I know people who are like, Nicole, I know you teach people how to use herbs, but do you know that you can just change your thoughts? And I'm like, a lot of people are not there,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it
Yes.
absolutely is the truth. So yes, that was key. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, thank everyone for watching. You've been watching Code Red by Women for Women, and my special guest today, really truly special, was Nicole Brantley. Nicole, thank you for joining us. And lastly, where can people find you on social media? I know you mentioned Google. Do you have a handle that you want to leave our guests with?
Absolutely. You can find me on my website at www.ilovebeingfresh.com, where all my links to my other social media platforms are there. You can go head over to Instagram at Womb Therapist. It's the at symbol and Womb Therapist, where you can find tons of complimentary content. You can scroll back for years and see all of the things that I've been educating women on, and people who haven't even called me for services, but read the things that I've put out there and have healed themselves. And you can find me on Facebook, Nicole M. Brantley. So any of those platforms. And make sure you follow me. You can learn tons. Trust me.
Awesome, awesome. And you can also learn more about the Justice for My Jewel campaign at jfmj.org. You can also learn more about the jewel product you heard mentioned by connecting with the person that shared this live with you or invited you to the live. If you find us on your own, we'll happily take your messages and get you plugged in. Join me for another episode of Code Red by Women for Women. That's going to be on July 19th. Again, we're not going to see each other next week. We'll see each other again on July 19th. And I have been your host, Sophia Allen Hendricks. Thank you for an awesome show. Thank you for watching, everybody.